Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the 3 Topics Gamer here to give you another episode of my weekly Q&A titled The People's Questions, where I answer a series of questions that have been sent to me, I'd say over the past number of days. And all these questions were sent to me in my community bar, so I want to thank the 5 individuals that paid attention and were able to post their questions in the right location so I could answer them for this video. And these are pretty much every question that was sent in that. So before I begin, if you do happen to enjoy this video by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep track of me and all my future videos moving forward, because I have a lot of content planned to upload over the course of November. So starting off with the first question, and I think all but the last 2 questions are from regulars, so that's good that I'm probably getting much more reach. But the first question comes from Nuki Nate 115, and you want to know, what would I like the PlayStation 6 to have that the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 don't have? The only thing I can think of that that 4 and 5 don't have now is they don't have the ability to, I'd say, customize the look of your live streams. Now, without question, the best addition that I'd say the last gen and current gen have is the ability to stream directly from your console and to record gameplay footage. That has been a godsend. Like, that has been one of the best things to have happened, especially for like a gaming channel like mine who doesn't have a capture card or doesn't have a way to record gaming footage. But thanks to what the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 can do, that has made things considerably easier. And that also adds to streams. I would say streaming on the PlayStation 4 is relatively good, but I would say that the quality is much sharper on PlayStation 5, as I've noticed. But the one thing that I think could elevate it even a little bit more is if it allowed you to have customizable borders. Even if you purchased them, or if they had a setting where you would go to, let's say you could go to a profile on your PlayStation Network on your online, and you could actually customize and build like a unique border, and then you could apply that to every time you stream. Therefore, it's not so plain. I mean, trust me, I like streaming. I like, being able to play a game and then being able to move exactly where my live stream camera is. But it would be nice to have like some sort of customizable border. Even if I can't promote like other sites, just have it have a little bit of customization and uniqueness to it. I think having something like that would definitely be something that would elevate PlayStation 6 a little bit more. Maybe not too much, because when I think of, what did they add in PlayStation 5 that wasn't PlayStation 4, it really wasn't all that much except, better performances, the haptic feedback from your controller, things like that. But I think that in terms of streaming, I think having that would be a major plus. And I mean, there's still time. They probably could add like something like that in PlayStation 5, but if they don't, that is definitely something I would like to see happen in PlayStation 6. So that's probably the one thing I would hope they would add. Next question comes from Winter Ghost, and you want to know, has there been a time where someone had pissed you off to the extent that you had to bite your tongue to prevent yourself from getting violent? Yes, but I wouldn't necessarily say I had to bite my tongue, because I went to someone else and explained what I was thinking about doing. Long story short, I was working at Walgreens. My first job was working at Walgreens for about 3 years, and there was like a junior manager who was kind of pissing me off during the Christmas season. And as you know, the Christmas season at a convenience store gets very hectic. And this junior manager said some things that really pissed me off. Now, mind you, I couldn't do anything in the moment because, I was dealing with customers. But I did make sure to go to the primary store manager, who was his boss. And I explained, look, this guy said this and this and this, and then he's been doing this and this and this, and it's been pissing me off to the point where, like, I am this close to just beating the shit out of him. And he's like, okay, just calm down. We'll discuss this. We never had a moment. Now, I don't know what my store manager said, because this guy was relatively new. He hadn't been there for all that long. I had been there for a couple of years, so I think I had, even though I was a lower position, I think I had a little bit more, grounds with my store manager. I don't know what he might have said, but there was never a moment where he brought the two of us in and then we had a conversation. All I know was maybe a few months later he quit and went to another store. So that's about that's as far as it went. But had something like that continued, or if I'd had a private moment where I've done something, maybe. But I was 20. I was like either 20 in my mid 20s. Like I was either 20 or early 21 ish. And this guy was clearly a little bit older than I was, so it would have been a crazy moment for something like that to happen. For me to do something like that at such a really young age, especially right after out of college. Um, but yeah, I'd say that's about the closest. I haven't had really a moment like that at work or anywhere else where I had to be held back or restrained. It hasn't gotten that bad yet. Next question comes from Phantom Cities, and he wants to know what were my overall thoughts on the PlayStation State of Play in September? Which game reveals were you impressed with? I wasn't really impressed. Okay, I thought it was alright, but was there anything that I was like completely blown away with? Not really. Knights of the Old Republic. I didn't even play the original one because I didn't like its gameplay style. So if they're gonna remake this game, I don't. All we got was a cinematic trailer of Dark Revan. It told me nothing about what they were doing with the story. They didn't tell me anything about what they're doing with the gameplay. If the gameplay is still done in the same MMO style, this is going to be a game I'm going to be avoiding because its gameplay style alone was enough to keep me away from Knights of the Old Republic. I know the story of it just from watching it on YouTube, but I had no interest of actually playing it. The game Project Eve, look, I thought that was going to be like a near automata sequel, but that might be something I'll pick up. I'm not a fan of Borderlands, so I had no interest in Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Spider-Man 2, we already knew that was coming out, so all they did was confirm that Venom was going to be the main villain, maybe with Kraven the Hunter. Some were thrown in there, and that you were going to be playing as Peter and Miles. But that's something we already knew. I knew that after playing Spider-Man Miles Morales, I knew that if there was going to be a Spider-Man 2, one thing they were going to add was you're going to probably be able to play as Peter and Miles in the same game. That's something that wasn't surprising. They did announce Wolverine, but heck, it was a cinematic cutscene. I don't know how that's going to work gameplay-wise, but heck, when it comes out, heck, I'll definitely pick that up. And then God of War 5 Ragnarok, another game that we knew about. And even looking at the game, it looks 90% exactly like God of War 4. Doesn't look any different, except it's taking place at a different time. I mean, visually, it looks... Now, I wouldn't even say it looks significantly better because God of War 4 was already a really good-looking game. Sure, it looks like some of the characters are a little bit older. They might have added a couple of gameplay mechanics, but overall, it looked like a proper sequel to a great God of War game. There was no question about that. So, it's not that I saw it, but I was already sold on getting that game the moment it came out. I'm waiting for them to announce a collector's edition so I can pre-order it, just like I did with Horizon. So, I thought it was a good state of play, but I didn't see anything that I didn't see coming outside from Wolverine, and even when I didn't see it coming, it wasn't something that I was amazingly blown away by. It was just like, okay, they announced it, this might be a game I'm going to get, or this is a game that I'm probably going to end up avoiding because I just don't know enough about it. So, overall, it was fine. Number of games I'm definitely going to pick up. Some games I'm still on the fence about, but overall, it was probably it wasn't what I was expecting. I thought we were going to get something a little bit more, maybe a few more announcements. I thought this was going to be something like a PlayStation experience, but I'm hoping one day that'll return. But overall, it was just fine for what it was trying to do. Next question comes from the first of two new people, and I believe you go by the name of Cortez M. And you want to know, is it possible for me to do a versus series for Evil Cole versus Evil Delson? The answer is no. I am 100% done with versus series matches. I do not want to do them anymore. I have made over 60 of them over 7 years. That is enough to stop. And I don't want to do Cole versus Delson for the fourth time. Now that idea is getting old. And on top of that, that is a stomp for Evil Cole. If we're talking about Infamous 2 Evil Cole, where he goes into beast mode, there's nothing that Delson can do to win. Absolutely nothing. But then I've had people come to me in the comments for Evil Delson during my first match and say, wait a minute, how come you didn't take all those powers that Delson supposedly says he's going to take, at the end of at the evil ending? He says he's going to go to that, conduit prison, and he's going to shake everyone's hands, and he's going to get all their powers. What he says and what he does are two different things. He says he's going to do that. But do you honestly think that if there were, let's say this prison has 100 prisoners, do you really think all 100 of those prisoners even want Delson to have their powers? And here's another thing. In order to even use those powers, he's going to need some power shards. He's going to have. So does he have like 100? Does he have 100 power shards just standing by? Because he's like the moment he touches the first person, he loses his powers. So he needs a power shard in order to turn his powers back on. And now when the first person sees that he does this, don't you think the other 99 are going to be like, wait a second, buddy. We don't want you to have all our powers. I mean, we appreciate you breaking us out of prison, but that doesn't mean we want you to have our powers. So, yeah, it's very unlikely that even though Delson says he's going to do that, I find it very unlikely that he's actually going to be able to do that in a practical sense. While in Cole's case, we know what Cole can do. This guy is the most powerful conduit who ever lived. More powerful than even John White's beast mode. And he is so powerful, he can literally wipe entire cities out in an instant. And he is so powerful, he creates conduits. What's to stop him from turning Delson's powers off completely, or even stripping him of his powers? There's nothing that says he can't do that. I mean, Delson is powerful, but Cole is a walking fusion reaction that has a consciousness and has a goal, and is the most powerful conduit who's ever lived. So, yeah, I don't really think it would go too well for the evil Delson at all. And people were like saying, well, you have to take his alternate power. You have to take all those powers into account. If you can't give me a list of all the powers he could have taken, unless you can prove to me that he took all those powers, you can't use them. I am working on what we know, not on what could have happened, or what he says. There's a difference. Just because he says he's going to do it doesn't mean he's actually going to do it unless you prove to me that he did do it, which no one can do that because the Infamous franchise is over, so we probably will never know what happened. And the last question of the episode comes from Tyler Goff, I believe that's what it says. And you want to know, if you don't mind me asking, what happened to Virgil vs. Cloud? After a while, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I want to do something different. I want to do something new. I felt like doing that again was cheap. And I didn't. I was tired of going back to using Cloud or Virgil. I mean, after I had a time to think, I was like, you know what? I want to do a Star Wars matchup. It would be best for my last matchup to be a Star Wars matchup because that Star Wars was the franchise that inspired me to start it 7 years ago, and that was my main motivation, and I was doing it for me. It's something I want to do. Virgil and Cloud was like a throwaway matchup. It would have been easy. It was considerably more harder for the matchup that I did end up doing than the matchup that I could have done. Because all that information is already there. And on top of that, I probably wouldn't be able to avoid what they did with Cloud in the ridiculous so-called remake, which I hated what they did with Cloud. I didn't like it at all. But then I would get loads of people coming at me saying, why didn't I mention that? And I think I just want to avoid that. I mean, at least with the older Cloud matches, I can get away with that version because that bullshit so-called remake hadn't been released or wasn't even out, or no one knew about it at the time. So I can get away with that. But I can't get away with talking about Cloud now. So I figured Cloud versus Virgil was not needed. And I want to do a Star Wars matchup, and I did that, and I'm very, very happy with it. So that about does it for this episode of People's Questions. I want to thank the 5 of you that happened to send your questions. Remember, if you guys have any questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get to the end to me roughly before next Wednesday around noon before I start filming the next episode. And remember, it is one question per person. And if it's not interesting enough, I will be sure to answer in the comments down below right here in this video. So, like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome. And I will see you all next time.